Okay, peeps, we are ready to begin. Two really quick things. Again, only 6 people with the bonus. You missed out on 20 points again. Scott, Chloe, Carly, Brooklyn, Colson, Alyssa, and Johnny, with Scott being, that's in the order of which they were received. So congratulations, 20 bonus points on your test.
I woke up at 4:06.
And it said if you watched, you had to have it done by, did you listen to it? But you were after 4 o'clock? No. You didn't listen to it? Okay, yeah. I was pretty precise this time. Yeah. Yes. So, and then yes, sir?
I didn't know. Sure you did. Give me like a thumbs up.
Oh, Rocco, you did. Rocco, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. Did I forget? I know, I'm sorry. Rocco, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. And then my second thing, for those of you that were at our last movie night, when I threw down the challenge of getting me some New York Super Fudge Crunch Ben & Jerry's ice cream, Mrs. Hollis has stolen all your bonus points because she came through like and got me 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge Crunch, of which there was only 4 in the store, and she bought all 4. And then she had some last night, and she said, now I know why. I'm like, yes, until you have had the pleasure of enjoying New York Super Fudge Crunch ice cream from Ben & Jerry's, you do not know. And she said, yes, I completely understand. Because she was downstairs when we were talking about that.
Yeah, I was going to Indy next week, and I was like, I'm going to get it then.
Too late. I got 2 pints. That'll last me 2 nights. I'll go into diabetic coma shock from eating. Oh, there's the little Kardashian lady. Oh, my. What's the mom's name?
Chris.
Okay, there she was. Okay. And also, I have 3 things. I'm sorry. My third thing is those of you that did, Alex, you must have listened to the lecture to hear me talk about. You didn't go all the way to the end.
I had to leave, so I just didn't.
Okay, that perplexed me because if you listened, Scott, Chloe, Carly, Brooklyn, Alyssa, Johnny, and Rocco, you heard me talk about the old game, The Oregon Trail.
Okay, we played that in middle school.
I know, everybody played that.
That game was awesome.
But we actually played it. We're not too young. We only gonna play it once, though.
Yeah,
And so
you
I
said
was,
we don't play it.
I
Can we
was,
play it again?
no, we're not playing it.
Bonus points in the first
No.
person.
I'm not. And then Alex said he was the only one. I've never known anyone that ever won Oregon Trail, but Alex said.
I did. All my life I did. Okay. I played it my free time. I did it.
Okay.
I played it my free time.
All right. Find the Oregon Trail. Play the Oregon Trail. Last year or 2 years ago, Nick Hornback found it. It was the only time he woke up in class. It was when I was talking about a video game. And then he found it and played it for eternity. Because he couldn't get past, I'm like, I know, you're going to get dysentery and die 800 times. You're going to get snake bit. You're going to get all these things happen to you. The point of which I talked about the Oregon Trail is that on page 4 of our notes, we start talking about the Oregon Trail. One of the more interesting stories about the Oregon Trail is a group of people known as the Donner Party. The Donner Party becomes infamous and notorious for events that happened as they're trying to cross and get into Oregon. So this Oregon Trail had a very specific amount of time that you needed to leave in order to get over the mountains and on the other side of the mountains before winter set in. And if you left any time after that date, you were in grave danger of not making it over the mountains or having to stop on the other side. And we're talking the Cascades, the Rockies, the Sierra Nevadas. We're talking major mountain ranges. Number one, I can't even imagine going over those mountain ranges in a covered wagon. But at a certain point, they were not able to be crossed, and you would have to hold up. Well, the Donner Party left a little too late and got snowed in and resorted to cannibalism during their time period that they were trapped in the snow. And so they become infamous for this idea of they testified that they only ate the people that had already died, that they didn't kill people to eat people, but they did do that. So next time you're watching the movie Aladdin, pay particular attention to when the genie is in the restaurant. This is why I never minded going to Disney movies with my kids, because I knew I was going to be entertained in which other people in the movie theater would not. Because at one point, the genie calls out in the restaurant, Donner Party, party of five, party of five. Oh no, make that party of four. It's hilarious. Cracks me up every time. So anyway, that's where we ended up. For those of you that didn't listen, we are now on page 4 and getting ready to look at Texas joining the Union. So Texas joining the Union is one of our difficult issues that we have to settle, because as we enter a new state into the Union, it's going to upset the balance of power. And again, this is what our chapter 17, and then we're going to go back and do 16. And if those of you that notice, hey, we didn't do 16. 16 is a whole chapter on slavery, and we just add 16 in with 18 and 19 as we get ready for Civil War. But the issue is going to be that we are now at a point where we can't guarantee that balance of power. The Congress, and particularly the Senate, had been set up so that there was no way that slavery could be overturned in those two houses. Texas joining the Union is going to make that difficult. So the Republic of Texas lasts 9 years. And again, if you know anyone for Texas, that is something that they are so proud of. We're our own country. There's no other state in the Union that's been their own country for 9 years. It's one of the flags that flies over. 6 flags over Texas is their own state flag. Mexico says, go ahead, say you're a country, but you're not. We don't recognize. Continued threat of war between Texas, Mexico, and the United States. Texas signs treaties with England, France, Holland for protection. They're not going to provide them protection, but it's more or less for show for Mexico that, hey, don't be messing around with us. We've got these other countries that support us. Great Britain is interested in Texas as a buffer zone against further U.S. expansion. And again, interesting to note that that's still something that the British are trying to keep from moving forward. And then France, again, hoping to divide North America. This is 1850-ish, 1840-ish. Please note that Britain and France still trying to interfere to keep us from getting bigger, to keep us from getting stronger. And again, when we get to 1860 and the Civil War, they pick up the popcorn, sit across the ocean, and wait for us to explode so those two countries can just come back in and take us back over again. I know that seems so far-fetched. It makes no sense, like, hey, we're a country. But to those groups and to those nations, we're not. We're not yet. We're something still evolving, something that could still have issues put in front of it to keep it from expanding and growing. So Texas becomes the leading issue in 1844. And again, those of you that listened to me yesterday, remember I told you to make sure you looked at the back, Mr. and Mrs. Polk back there, the 5440 and Manifest Destiny. That's President Polk back there. And again, it's Polk versus Clay. Opponents fear expansion of slavery into the new region. So again, this becomes the idea of the expansion of slavery instead of trying to end slavery. We're not at that point yet where we're trying to abolish slavery. What most of the people are arguing is the anti-extension. It can't go past its borders of where it's at already. And so that becomes an issue. Southerners, of course, they want that annexation. They want Texas to be open. They want to continue to spread and move into Texas. And again, for those of you that have never visited the great state of Texas, Texas is a big, gigantic, enormous state that has a wide variety of agricultural opportunities. East Texas is very green, very fertile, very rich for farming, grazing, lots of green grass. As you move west past where you get just about to Dallas, it starts to get that more deserty part that I think most people think of Texas as, but still great for grazing. You can grow some things there, but there's not a lot of really rich topsoil. So Texas offers a lot of opportunity agriculturally, and for Southerners just to keep expanding and moving in that direction west is what they would like to do, and especially bringing along with them enslaving people. So in 1845, Tyler gets a joint resolution in Congress for annexation, and they don't need to do the majority vote. And that is going to happen on the bottom of page 4. Mexico claimed U.S. had unjustly taken Texas, refused to recognize annexation. So we are at a stalemate between the United States and Mexico. And thus, on the top of page 5, we get our really first war, not against Great Britain. This will be our war that we fight against the first non-British country, and it is the Mexican War. Again, little teeny tiny war. Average American probably has no idea we fought a war against Mexico, unless, of course, you ask someone from Texas and then they know all about it. So it starts with Polk trying to get California. Again, the bonus question yesterday was what was Polk's 4-point plan. One of them, and you could have answered it 2 ways if you use the COIL, California. We want California. We want California now in 1845. No gold there yet. That's not happening until 49. But we want California for Pacific ports to Asia. So we haven't really talked about Asia very much in this course because it doesn't really yet pertain to us. But Asia is opening as a market, and it has very desirable commercial goods: jade, ivory, tea, all types of porcelain, and we want that stuff. Right now, to get the stuff, we have to sail all the way around the tip of South America. If we get the state or get the territory of California, we've got tons of ports that we can use across California. So we want California as access to the Pacific and the Asian market. So we want to buy it. Mexico, not interested. Don't want to sell it. And again, A1, California as a gateway to Pacific. So Texas annexation issue caused Mexico to sever diplomatic relations. We're not even talking to you anymore. We're done, over with. We also have the boundary dispute of where Texas begins and ends. Texas claimed the Rio Grande, which is today's current, and Mexico says, first of all, we're not even recognizing, but if there is a border, it's not the Rio Grande. Polk honors the Texas boundary of the Rio Grande. Mexico says, we just want that back. It's not even yours to start with. So Polk, number 5, Polk sends John Slidell to Mexico City in late 1845 to buy California for $25 million, and Mexico won't even listen. This is kind of like another XYZ affair with France, where they won't even acknowledge the diplomats that come. So we now are at this crossroads diplomatically with Mexico. Polk ramps this up by taking the United States Army and marching it down to the Rio Grande. So General Zachary Taylor marches his army, the United States Army, to the Rio Grande and just sits there. He mobilizes the army. Mobilization of an army is pretty much the first step towards war. It is considered an aggressive move. It is a very aggressive move. Think about if the Canadian Army marched their borders or marched their army and set that on the boundary between the United States and Canada, or Mexico did the same. It is an aggressive act to do that, and that mobilization has an intended outcome as a threat. He also takes the Navy into the Gulf of Mexico, into California. April, Mexican troops cross the Rio Grande and attack Taylor. There's 16 casualties. Polk sends the message to Congress and says, we've been attacked. That message, again, sends to Congress, we've been attacked, we must agree this, and a declaration of war. And it becomes, for anti-slavery Whigs, Mr. Polk's War. That's really important. That's one of the reasons Henry David Thoreau sits himself in a prison, because I'm not supporting this war. I'm not supporting a war based on the extension of slavery. The only reason Polk wants the only reason Polk wants Texas is to extend slavery, and I'm not going to pay taxes to support that war. Whigs are going to oppose the war, and some Whigs will question, please look at C, and I will put a big giant box around C, especially spot resolution, because hopefully you see a really important name right there. At this point, he's Representative Abraham Lincoln from the great state of Illinois, and he puts forward this idea known as the spot resolution. Where did this war, or where did this attack really occur? Most Whigs do not think that it occurred in Texas. Most Whigs think that Zachary Taylor pushed his army into Mexican territory and thus aggressively caused a reaction of the Mexicans to attack. And that spot resolution, show me the spot. I want to see that spot that occurred in Texas territory, bless you, which they are never shown that spot. Many Whigs believe the U.S. had no legal right to any land south of the Neches River. And again, Ralph Waldo Emerson feared the slavery issue. And bless you, Mexico will poison us. This is step one of leading us to the Civil War. This is the beginning. And it is that worksheet that you have about the Mexican War. That's what you're looking at. How this small little Mexican war leads us to step one into civil war against ourselves. Southern expansionists, they want that. They want to take it over. Mexico hoped U.S. involvement with Britain over Oregon would erupt into war, wanted to humiliate Texas. And so if we turn the page, on page 6, U.S. initiated a 3-prong attack. Polk sought a limited war. And if you guys see, we're about to be finished with our notes today. California by land. So we've got a 3-prong attack. California by land, California by sea, and then marching into Mexico. Captain Fremont conquers California. Had the state earlier won its independence in the Bear Flag Revolt. Again, that's where those of you that are familiar with the California flag, or you're familiar with it because of Hollister that sells everything with the bear flag on it, that's where it gets the bear flag. California by sea. And Commodore Sloat will seize Monterey and San Francisco. And then Zachary Taylor will be victorious at Monterey and Buena Vista. He will become a hero overnight. He will be our next president. And General Winfield Scott, who we'll meet a lot in the Civil War. He will also run for president against Lincoln, obviously, and not win. Will push inland from Veracruz and capture Mexico City. Mexico still refused to negotiate and instead carried on guerrilla warfare. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, I would put a giant box around this because this is our first treaty, not with Great Britain. It's our first treaty that we kind of sort of do a good job of getting stuff as the winners. And we are negotiating this treaty with Mexico, and provisions are the United States gains California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Nevada. That's a giant chunk of territory that we gain as a result of the Mexican War. We get half of the Mexican territory, half. U.S. will pay $15 million and assume claims of U.S. citizens against Mexico for $3.2 million. Treaty approved by the Senate. Mexican Whigs disapproved of war, threatened to cut off supplies. Expansionists clamored for all of Mexico. Let's just take all of it. And Calhoun pushed for the treaty immediately before significant opposition mounted. So the results of this Mexican-American War are huge. Little teeny tiny war, not much of an impact militarily, not a lot of casualties. We have some great heroes that are going to come out of it. Zachary Taylor, again, will become our next president in 1848. But slavery again begins. In the broader sense, Mexican War resulted in the Civil War. That is crucial in understanding how we get to the place that we're at. Abolitionists saw the Mexican War as a conspiracy of Southern slave owners. That's what that's what wakes up Northern abolitionists. They see this and they fully see that the South is not going to be happy with just allowing slavery and enslaving people in the South. They want to push it across the United States. And abolitionists and Northerners say, is this what we want to be known for? Is this what our country is about? This idea of enslaving people. And so as a result, the bottom of page 6 is one of these weird things that you have to know about in APUSH a lot. Stuff that didn't ever really happen. And it's the Wilmot Proviso. This is something that's put forward in Congress. It never passes. But you will be asked about this thing a lot, which I think is weird, but it's weird. Okay? So the Wilmot Proviso says very simply, in all that territory that we got from Mexico, California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, slavery should never exist there. Should never exist. It passes the House twice. So let's think about that. Why does it pass the House twice? Because the House of Representatives is based on population. Where's the largest population? In the West and in the East. So in the House, we'll have all these bills that will be passing based on ending slavery, based on non-extension. They will never pass in the Senate because every state has 2 senators, and we have an equal number of slave states and an equal number of free states. So everything gets hung up in the Senate, and that's what these Southerners are very concerned about. That's what Northerners are very concerned about, because one state added changes that balance of power and changes the vote. Does that make sense? That is really crucial to understand. The next 10 years is going to be all about that. It's going to be all about how we're going to balance that out. Southerners resented Northern attempts to prevent the expansion of slavery. So the rhetoric between, and rhetoric is talk, the talk between those Southern states, Northern and Western states explodes. Those of you that pay attention to politics currently, it is that same kind of vitriol, same kind of contention, same kind of pointing finger at that's happening now that is going to be happening for the next 10 years. And it will end, sadly, in civil war. So the Wilmot Proviso never passes. It will pass twice in the House, gets to the Senate, it dies. So at the top of page 7, U.S. territory increases by 1/3. So we get all of that territory. Now, here's the other part. It's bigger than the Louisiana Purchase, which again, Texans want you to know. It's bigger because it's Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada. That's way bigger than the Louisiana Purchase. However, it's not as significant or as important as the Louisiana Purchase, right? Because most of that territory is desert territory that we're not going to do anything with and won't become states until the 20th century. 13,000 Americans dead. Again, as most of our wars before the 20th century, most of them will die of disease and not casualties of war. Sentiment for Manifest Destiny increased. Holy cow, we're on fire for Manifest Destiny in a huge way. This just lights a fire and everybody's ready to spread. Latin America began to negatively view the U.S. as the Colossus of the North. Please underline that word, Colossus of the North. That is not a positive viewpoint. It sounds like it is because Colossus means big, like, whoo, big Colossus of the North. What it means is oppressive and overpowering. And this begins our long, embattled, embittered history with Latin America. Number 6 is very important. U.S. forces experienced in war. And most of those people that fought in that war were Southerners. And it will be the reason the first 3 years of the Civil War, the South wins just about every battle. Because most of the leaders, most of the men fighting in this Civil War, in the Mexican-American War, were Southerners. Southerners still have very few universities, and the universities that they do have are military universities. They have the Citadel, they have Virginia Military Institution. They don't have a Harvard, they don't have a Yale. So those young men that attend universities in the South are going to military universities that are geared up to produce military men. All right? Please pay attention to those questions and make sure that you look through them. It is really important. This unit is really, really short on purpose because Manifest Destiny is a really short topic, but it is a gigantic spectrum that introduces the next 10 years that we move through this time period. All right, questions, anybody? So tomorrow, yes.
The DBQs, do they have to be on the first grade?
No, because I'll just print them out. If you want to type it, I mean, I have to print it out to grade it, but
I didn't know if you just specifically wanted to.
no, it's okay if you want to do that. Tomorrow will be a work day, so make sure that you come with your work. Tuesday will be our quizzes. We'll have a SAQ quiz and a regular quiz, and then Tuesday is our test. Okay? Any questions about that?
You told me to ask you if we got any stickers.
Oh, yes, stickers. Those of you that were absent, I need to get you stickers. None of this chapter goes on this 9 weeks. Please make sure you get in by Friday for your test corrections. That chapter 14 and 15 stuff, that's the last stuff that's on this grading period. So please make sure you come in and get your test corrections done. Okay.